Hey guys, tonight we begin not with a philosopher or a conqueror, but with a plant that's been confusing, healing, and mildly annoying governments for thousands of years: cannabis. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's smoky little history together. We're in roughly 5000 BCE now, the Stone Age, emphasis on stone. Civilization is still in beta testing. People are inventing pottery, domesticating animals, and dying of things like standing near a mosquito. Somewhere in what's now Siberia, a forager probably tossed cannabis onto a campfire for warmth, took a deep breath, and forgot why they went outside in the first place. Archaeologists later found cannabis seeds in ancient burial sites, which means someone valued this plant enough to take it to the grave, literally. Either it was a sacred ritual or a prehistoric version of "don't bury me without my stash." Given human nature, probably both. At first, cannabis wasn't about good vibes or philosophical musings. It was about survival. The fibers made ropes and clothes, the seeds were edible, and the plant was basically nature's Swiss Army knife. You could sail with it, tie things with it, wear it, and, if you accidentally smoked it, suddenly find the clouds hilarious. Imagine being one of the first humans to inhale it on purpose. No one to explain what's happening, no snacks, no Bob Marley, just raw confusion and a deep conversation with a tree that isn't talking back. Early humans probably didn't think they were getting high. They thought the gods had upgraded their vision. And yet, from that accidental puff, the legend began. A plant that would one day travel the globe, inspire poetry, trigger paranoia, and fund entire reggae albums, all starting with some bored Neolithic farmer who wanted to see what would happen if he set fire to his crops. So, before the word weed even existed, cannabis had already outsmarted us. It found the one species dumb enough to cultivate it, worship it, outlaw it, and smoke it, often in the same century. Humanity, meet your oldest love-hate relationship. Fast forward to 2700 BCE, where China was inventing everything: paper, silk, bureaucracy, and apparently the world's first medical endorsement for getting high. Enter Emperor Shen Nung, known as the Divine Farmer, which sounds noble until you realize it means he spent most of his reign taste-testing random plants to see which ones killed him. The man was basically the world's first drug trial, with no control group. According to legend, Shen Nung discovered hundreds of herbs this way, including ginseng, tea, and yes, cannabis. His book, the Pen to Sao Ching, reads like an ancient yelp for plants. Good for pain, gout, rheumatism, and forgetfulness. Which is impressive, because cannabis probably caused the forgetfulness he was treating. To Shen Nung, weed wasn't a vice. It was medicine. The Chinese didn't roll it up or pass it around. They brewed it into tonics, ground it into powders, and probably called it something wise-sounding like wind in the bones elixir. It treated fevers, calmed nerves, and made people slightly too confident about their poetry. By this point, hemp was everywhere, spun into rope, woven into clothes, written on as paper. Entire towns were basically built out of cannabis. You could live your whole life surrounded by the same plant. Your clothes, your scrolls, your fishing nets, and, if you were lucky, your mild painkiller. It was like living inside an eco-friendly bong. Doctors in ancient China took it seriously. They believed cannabis balanced the body's yin and yang, which is a polite way of saying it chills you out. It wasn't recreational yet, but let's be honest, every civilization that says it's using something for spiritual healing usually ends up giggling at shadows. So while the rest of the world was still inventing fire pits and bad decisions, China had already added cannabis to its pharmacy. Shen Nung might not have known what THC was, but he knew one thing. It made people stop complaining for a while. And in a world full of famine, floods, and Mongols warming up in the distance, that's what you'd call medical progress. While China was busy bottling cannabis into tonics, and pretending it was strictly medicinal, their neighbours on the open grasslands of Central Asia had a simpler idea. Just burn it and breathe deeply. Meet the Scythians, the horse-riding nomads who basically lived outdoors, looked like they hadn't slept since birth, and had a collective attitude best described as armed and unbothered. Around 1000 BCE, these people decided that death rituals were missing something, mainly smoke, not incense, not sage, cannabis. Greek historian Herodotus wrote that the Scythians would throw hemp seeds onto hot stones inside sealed tents. Within minutes, the place filled with thick aromatic clouds, and then, in his words, they would howl with pleasure, which is ancient Greek for someone's about to freestyle under the stars. This wasn't some small ritual puff either. They treated it like a full-body baptism in THC. Imagine 20 warriors, all covered in tattoos and fur, crawling into a tent with burning hemp and emerging spiritually reborn and slightly disoriented. The Scythians didn't have a word for relaxation, but this was probably the closest they got. The smoke wasn't just for fun, it was sacred. It helped them commune with the spirits of the dead, ease grief, and, let's be honest, make the afterlife sound like a pretty good deal. Archaeologists later uncovered golden bongs, yes, literal gold, buried in Scythian tombs, still coated with traces of cannabis residue. That's right, these ancient warriors died the way they lived, stylish, mysterious, and slightly high. You can't buy that kind of historical commitment. Other cultures eventually copied the idea. From Persia to India, nomads and mystics alike began inhaling cannabis smoke during funerals, festivals, and philosophical debates. Because if you're going to question the meaning of life, it helps if the air itself is giving you ideas. So while the Chinese were boiling their medicine and writing about balance, the Scythians were perfecting the ancient art of the hot box. No fancy rituals, no incense, just fire, smoke, and an unspoken agreement. No one opens the tent flap until someone starts seeing gods. While the Scythians were hotboxing tents on the steppes, India decided to make cannabis holy. Because if you're going to inhale smoke and see visions, you might as well make it sound respectable. By around 1500 BCE, cannabis had made its grand debut in the Atharva Veda, one of the 4 sacred Hindu texts. It was listed as one of the 5 sacred plants, said to be a gift from the gods. Specifically Shiva, who, according to legend, discovered it under a celestial tree, took a few hits, and promptly entered a state of divine chill. From that day forward, Shiva was known as the Lord of Bhang, which is arguably the coolest religious title in human history. Bhang, by the way, wasn't smoked, it was drunk. Imagine a smoothie made of milk, spices, crushed cannabis leaves, and the vague promise of enlightenment. Priests, yogis, and festival goers would sip it during ceremonies, praise the gods, and then forget what they were praising halfway through. It wasn't considered rebellious. It wasn't illegal. It was sacred. In temples, cannabis was used to purify the spirit. In villages, it was used to tolerate your relatives. It was medicine, meditation, and mild escape, all in one convenient leaf. Festivals like Mahashivaratri became full-on divine parties, where worshippers stayed up all night singing hymns, dancing, and drinking bhang until they could practically see the universe vibrating. If enlightenment had a recipe, it was probably this: 1 part devotion, 1 part weed, and 1 unfortunate hangover the next morning. And while other civilizations treated cannabis as a ritual tool or trade good, India gave it a personality: playful, spiritual, and stubbornly human. It wasn't just a plant. It was a companion on the path to understanding the universe, or at least pretending to. The beauty of it all? No one pretended it was just for health. It was explicitly for joy, transcendence, and occasionally forgetting that you had 10 more years of drought ahead. So while the rest of the world was coughing in tents, India elevated cannabis to divine status. They didn't just smoke it, they deified it. Because here, getting high wasn't escapism. It was enlightenment, with better snacks. While India was joyfully toasting Shiva with bhang milkshakes, China was taking a more serious approach, because in China, even enlightenment comes with documentation. By around 1000 BCE, cannabis had already made its way into